Hello everyone, this is Kate from Exploding Orchids. I thought I'd come on today to do a video about this orchid that I found. Now, I found this in a charity shop in England. So in England we have what we call charity shops. Essentially people donate things that they don't need anymore to these shops, and they're usually attached to a charity. So I think the one that I got this one from was a cancer research charity shop. And generally charity shops don't sell plants. It's not really something that you see very often. They usually sell things like plates and decorations, clothes mostly. And it's not common that you'd see a charity shop with any plants in, basically. But this particular shop, it seems like they do it every year, but I'm not 100% sure because I've only seen it twice now, I think. In summer, they do like an outdoor plant sale. So people donate their extra tomato plants or flowers that they're planting outside, and that's generally garden plants, like I said. And then immediately after that they did a house plant sale, and I obviously went in there quite often. I collect plants, I really like plants, and I wasn't really expecting to see an orchid because generally either people kill them or they just keep them, unless of course they've only just been gifted them and then they end up giving them away because they didn't actually want them, which is quite common. Orchids are probably the most common plant gift that people can receive, and a lot of the time people just don't know how to look after them. So yeah, I don't think this is what happened with this one. So this one, to me, appears like someone has a lot of orchids, knows how to look after orchids, had this for many, many years, and it became too big maybe, or they moved house, or maybe it's just an orchid that they're not that interested in. There's a possibility that it's quite a standard phal, a white flower or a standard pink flower or something like that. But like I said, there's a possibility as well that it just got too big, because I don't know if you can see, it's not really easy to tell, but you can see that the leaves are massive. There's quite a few layers of leaves, and honestly when I got it, I'll try and show you. When I got it, the stem was insanely long. It was probably the entire length of this pot, all the way down to here. So all of the stem down to here had no leaves whatsoever. When I repotted it, I cut it because really you're not supposed to have the stem in the pot anyway. It can, it can rot. It can cause all kinds of issues in the pot. So I did cut it off here. That was where the least amount of roots were coming off it, and then the top part here I still kept because it had a lot of roots attached to it. And you can see that I've made it so that it's against the side of the pot. There's a bit more airflow at the side, and in theory it should be okay. But yeah, I did get rid of that because it was just too long. It didn't actually fit back into the pot, and when I got it, it was in this pot. It had a decent amount of roots, and it was in, I think, it was in a mix of bark and sphagnum moss. And again, that's another thing that made me think that this person, and you see these holes here, another thing, another reason I think this person knows how to look after orchids, and they clearly have looked after them for a very long time. And this one in particular, there's no doubt in my mind this one is at least 10 to 15 years old, not necessarily including the time it might have spent in a nursery. So in the nursery maybe it's there for about 3 years, before it makes its first flower spike, and then it's sent to whichever shop it's sold in. But yeah, this person has had this orchid for ages, and it's absolutely massive. For context, I've got my Monstera pot at the back here. You can see that it's holding a gigantic plant, right? And I mean, this one does need a bigger pot, to be honest, but I don't have room for that. So, but if you compare, if you put this pot next to that pot, you can see they're literally almost the same size. So this orchid is absolutely massive, and I'm really happy to have found it in that charity shop. Now, as it was gifted to the charity shop, I have no idea what the flowers are going to look like, and when I got it, it didn't have this flower spike. So I got this I think last year in autumn at some point, and phals don't usually bloom in autumn. They usually bloom in spring, early summer. Sometimes they start in winter, but at least where I live, they usually start actually blooming in spring. And the flower spikes are induced by the cold weather over winter. So yeah, this has made this spike. It's got the main spike here, and then it is threatening to make a branch there. It's quite a big growth growing on there. And yeah, like I said, I have absolutely no idea what the flowers are going to look like. I'm quite excited. Because it's such a big plant, I'm hoping that means that it's going to be quite a nice show. So it's either going to be really, really nice big flowers with vibrant colours, or it's going to be a prolific flower. So it might make quite a few flowers. Again, this depends on the condition it was in before I got it. For what I could tell, it was in really good condition, in the sense that the roots were really good, the leaves are massive, it didn't have too many leaves wilting. You can see these ones at the bottom. I did cut off because they were starting to yellow, and I have a suspicion that this plant was experiencing some kind of nutrient deficiency. Something like magnesium or potassium, I'm not 100% sure. Because as soon as I took on this orchid and started fertilizing it, so I fertilize quite heavily compared to what is generally suggested. Not on YouTube, so YouTube is pretty well informed, I think, on what kind of fertilizers you should use and how much fertilizer you should use for Phaleanopsis orchids, because they are, you know, people at home enthusiastic about orchids, and they want to know as much as possible. But if you just search up how to fertilize orchids, I feel like a lot of the information online is not right. Yeah, it's not right. They say things like don't fertilize your orchids in winter, don't water your orchids in winter. They say all kinds of silly things, in my opinion, that are just not helpful to anyone, and not true, to be honest. I think Phaleanopsis orchids are surprisingly hungry and thirsty plants, and they need watering very frequently compared to what they suggest online, and they need to be fertilized in winter. This is the time that they use a lot of their energy for flowers, and I honestly don't believe they could possibly just run on the fertilizer they receive during summer. I feel like leaves don't nearly take as much energy for the plant as making flowers do. It's just, I think it's just a myth that they don't need the fertilizer in winter. But anyway, that's what I suspect for this one, that the lower leaves were going yellow, and I cut them off because they were quite badly damaged. You know, at that point that they had gone almost completely yellow on the tips and were starting to go almost brown. Actually, you can kind of see it here. Can you see the damage to the leaves? This is what happened before I got it. And they just didn't look very nice. Like, it's not, this is a big plant. I'm not going to waste I'm not going to waste any extra plant space trying to keep these ugly looking leaves. So I did cut them off, but clearly as soon as I took them on and I started feeding them, the leaves would have survived. They wouldn't have bounced back, so it's not like I made a mistake cutting them off. But they definitely made a bounce back as soon as I started feeding this plant, and it hasn't actually lost the leaves at all. And mind you, like I said, this was last year that I got this. So if those leaves were destined to die naturally, then they would have died by now. And they definitely wouldn't have stayed green for this long. So yeah, I feel like it was a magnesium deficiency, honestly, but you never know, it could be anything. Apparently this kind of coloration on the leaves is sometimes also an indication that there was a magnesium deficiency. Sometimes they say that there's like mottling on the leaves, as in like kind of like this actually, like darker and lighter patches, the leaf starts to turn see-through. So this is one sign that you might have a magnesium deficiency, is that there's a lot of it all over the leaves, especially the lower leaves. And I didn't necessarily see that with this one, although like I said, the lower leaf that I cut off was yellow with splotches on it, so again it could be that. But apparently some orchids, they just show extra kind of brown pigments or red pigments, despite the fact they're not cold. If you didn't know, orchids, when they're a little bit on the colder side, or when they receive more light, they will go a bit red. Now this looks different in my opinion to deficiency signs. So you can see here the red on the stem and on the leaves is more of a purple. It's more of a pleasant colour, whereas if you look at the browning again, it's red, but it doesn't look healthy. Now this is what I think is what they mean when they say that the leaves can get red due to deficiencies. I think it definitely looks different. There's a way to distinguish between those. You can see that the newer leaf is really nice. It's nice and dark and shiny. It's growing just as long as the other one, so that's good. So I think this plant's going to be fine. But yeah, I can't wait, honestly, to see the flowers. My guess is it's going to be a pretty standard large Phaleanopsis. So in flower shops and garden centres, I tend to see only a few different colours for large Phaleanopsis. So white obviously is very common. Everyone has seen a white Phaleanopsis, and they are also the most likely for people to give away or abandon, because they do tend to be on the more boring side, I have to say. But then another colour variation that you might find is dark purple and pink. So sometimes together, so sometimes you'll find Phaleanopsis with purple and pink spots or patterns or something like that, or alternatively just all purple or all pink. So that's my guess for what this is going to look like. I think it's going to be pink. That's my official guess. And I don't hate pink Phaleanopsis. Like, actually the majority of my Phaleanopsis are pink, but the difference is I have a very strong dislike for a specific colour that I see sometimes with Phaleanopsis. I really hate the magenta colour flowers. I don't know what it is about it. I think the colour is unpleasant. And yeah, I just really don't like it. So if these flowers do turn out to be entirely magenta, I'll I have to debate whether I really want to keep it, honestly. I know that sounds dramatic, but I don't know what it is. It's very strange. I don't mind a little bit of magenta, so I think I have one flower, one Milli Phaleanopsis, that has a purple, like a really dark purple flower, and then only on the lip is the tiniest bit of magenta, and then it fades to more of a blue. I'll have to, as soon as it flowers again, I'll have to do a video about it and just show it off. And it's really pretty. I don't know what it is about the color combination between the magenta, the dark purple, and the blue purple that's on the lip. It's really, really nice. But I just can't stand flowers that are entirely magenta. It's just not my thing. So yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed it's not pink in that sense. Most of the pink Phaleanopsis I have are more of a peach pink, or a mix between yellow and pink, which is my favourite colour combination. But we'll see. If it's white, actually, I really won't mind. I quite like the large white Phaleanopsis, and I would never purposefully buy one of those from the flower shops or garden centres or anything. But if it was absolutely cheap like this, I think this was only £3, which is a steal for an orchid this big. Honestly, it's absolutely massive. Then I'm not too unhappy. But if it is magenta, I will be upset, and I will be sending this right back to the charity shop. We'll see. Maybe not. You never know. I might develop a liking for it. Like there is a. I never used to like pink flowers at all, but apparently I like those now too. So maybe I'll change my mind. You never know. But yeah, I'll do an update video on this when it is in bloom, and we can find out finally what colour the flowers are. But yeah, I do recommend getting at least 1 or 2 mystery orchids. It's really fun. It's really fun not knowing what they are, and then finding out later on. It's really nice. And yeah, that's it for this video. So yeah, I'll see you next time, and fingers crossed this blooms soon. So if you like this video, please actually like it, and subscribe if you like videos like this. I aim to do a video at least once a week, so that gives me a little bit of a I don't know, a schedule, I guess. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you later.